Good morning, everyone, and welcome to American Scouser's morning cup of coffee right here. Got the grumpy going this morning just in case how the day goes. You never know. So I got the grumpy mug out this morning. I'm hoping everybody's doing well. 6 hours or so to kick off over here. Let's hope it's a lot better than last week. So we'll take a look at the headlines real quick. There's only a couple that kind of catch my eye. Talk about those a little bit and then look ahead to the game. I'm really nervous about this one. Just don't know what to expect. And I think that's what's different this year compared to before, where we kind of at least knew that we would definitely rebound and it would be a whole different team coming out and stuff. Whereas now it's kind of like, looking the peeking from underneath the blankets kind of game watching going on. Alan is with us this morning. Good morning, Alan. Let's get to some of these headlines right here. So first off, this just cringy first thing in the morning, but some Diego Costa talk. He's back in the Premier League, obviously with Wolves, and I don't know. It's one of those guys that's probably my top 5 of hated. And I know, I mean, it's talking about like master of the dark arts and stuff like that. I mean, dark arts, basically a polite, politically correct way of saying being a douchebag on the field. I mean, that's the only thing I can come up with because that's what he is, really. And I know that kind of works in terms of getting under the skin of like other defenders, and he can kind of cause trouble, get some cards himself, and earn other people some cards, I guess. But I know it's the type of player that I definitely would not want to see on my team. And I know there's sometimes players like this, right, where you love to have them on your team, but you don't want to, play against them, or you despise them if they're for playing for any other club. This is the kind of guy, man. I don't know. I would even debate if I would like it if he's on our team. I mean, there's some shithousery, that you kind of like almost like chuckle and laugh if it's somebody from your team, but not when it's like this guy, Diego Costa. I don't know. I know what it is. It's just like not a guy I would want on my team, but definitely somebody that they could use because they've been struggling. I don't know if can he still give anybody 90 minutes. I'm assuming not, but still, it's a piece they needed, and really, it's probably a low risk ordeal overall. Allen helping out with the Mons. Van der Vaart slams mediocre Liverpool and calls Henderson, Gomez, and Milner very normal. Coming from a guy like Van der Vaart, who was pretty normal himself in my eyes, but that's a different story. So, former Spurs stars claims footballing world has become a bit blinded by Jurgen Klopp's side. This is what I despise about media. And Brian says he can give them a couple of red cards at the least. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I don't know which way, if Costa himself will be getting those red cards, or he'll be earning, or he'll be walking out with somebody else or something, but he definitely brings that to the game. That maybe that Wolves team was a bit too calm. So some jerk on the field to help him out. Going back to Van der Vaart, this is what I despise about like the whole sports media, because they just trip over each other to build people up. And then in the same way, going down, they trip over each other to like tear people down. And when this is how you do things, you can never be wrong. I mean, you can never be wrong because you can just like praise, 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 and then turn around and act like you never said any of those things. Was he saying Henderson normal when he was player of the year? Joe Gomez when he was partnering with, Van Dijk that year? Milner, unless he's saying, they've become like more normal, kind of like come down to earth, as especially like Henderson and Milner as they age. But I just hate that whole, Gomez thing. I talked about this last night's podcast, and I think yesterday morning with Mateusz as well. Pulling him at halftime, and only him. I mean, he deserved to be pulled. He had a horrible game. I'll give him that. But pulling only him was a really kind of like a douchey move by Klopp to single him out and only take him out when everybody was just falling apart on that field, and just take him out as one substitution out of the 5 you can do. First of all, you're just making no attempt to change anything after watching that first half. And if you thought taking Gomez out because he's the only problem and singling him out like that, I don't know. I thought it was like extremely wrong, and kind of like really one of the things, 2 things really angered me in that game. One, that Don't ask me why. Maybe because I was a center back, a bit more touchy when center backs get thrown out of the bus or something. And the second one is obviously like the body language, especially of players like Trent and stuff like that. I rarely get, you can get upset during the game because something doesn't go your way, you're losing, whatever. But like I was watching this angry, more like pissed off, just because of those two reasons. I like the first half, like the body language and stuff, and at halftime, that's how we come out. I'm like, oh, we put this on Gomez. Yeah, it was not called for me. Speaking of people thrown under the bus, Newcastle signs former Liverpool keeper Karius. So this is kind of like an interesting deal, right? Like some people just go out of their way to defend Karius in terms of like the treatment he got. Did he get the "you'll never walk alone" or he was just walking alone? My take on that is that he kind of has set that up for himself. So here, I guess he makes that, just a brutal of a game. You can say it was concussion, it was not concussion, whatever. I mean, he wasn't concussed the entire freaking summer if it was concussion that caused them to make the errors. And again, players can make errors. That's all good. Whatever it is, that's fine. But the way he reacted to that mistake, I think, is what rubbed fans more than the mistakes themselves in some way, at least for me. Because I mean, he knew it was his mistake that day. He's crying, he's apologizing, and you feel for the kid, right? Because despite losing and feeling miserable for losing, you still feel for the kid, because obviously nobody wants that in the biggest stage of their career. I mean, let's face it, he helped us get there, right? He was in goal. It's not like we didn't play with the goalkeeper, so you feel for him. But then how he reacted to it, and I understand, these guys have like a different life out of sports and stuff. But at the same time, this is your career. This, you're a professional. This is your profession. So if you have a PR guy, as you should, and you have like a social media guy, maybe he should be more sensitive in terms of how the fans view you there. That's their job. And he just did not seem like a guy. And I don't know what I expected, but I expected more about him saying, can't wait to go back and make the wrong rights or whatever, as opposed to, posing here, posing there, when, we had that entire summer to kind of like spend with that taste in our mouth. I mean, maybe that's not fair to him. He's just, that's his time to relax, his off season and stuff like that. And that's fine. If that's the route he wants to go, that's fine. But then you got to live with the consequences of what you did and how you reacted and how you presented yourself on social media. It's under their control. I'm not saying he had to be in a room like crying and pouting all summer, but he didn't have to use the social media and all that kind of stuff to like, be like, hey guys, I'm relaxing. You guys should relax too, kind of a thing. And I think that's what rubbed people. I know it kind of like irked me, like just seeing that. Not that I was like, like cussing him out and like telling him to be like, take it to the back and shot or something, as some fans were. But yeah, I think he didn't help his cause that way. And obviously, when your confidence is gone and you can feel the support not being there, that's a tough place to be a goalie. Because as a goalie, it's not like a on the fields player where you can do a couple of things that kind of start building up your confidence and you start getting back. You get one assist, you get it, even within a game, you can make a bonehead play, but then you kind of like, you make a good tackle, you win the ball, you make a good move, and you kind of like start to shake that off. You can kind of shake it off and like start building that momentum again. Or like from game to game, you can kind of like build up on your performances. Whereas with a goalie, that is really, really tricky because, with no confidence, it's a position that relies a lot on confidence and instinct. And if you're kind of doubting yourself and what you're going to do, which he obviously was doing, it's going to go downhill. I mean, he was on I don't know why he was on the roster for so long. I know he went to Turkey, played for Besiktas, and made some bonehead plays too. Of course, we only saw bonehead plays. He did make some good saves and he had a couple of good games over there as well. But overall, it wasn't like, this is the goalie, he's back or anything like that. And hence, really, he did not get a shot. I don't know if he was ever going to get a fair shot again at Liverpool. Even if Klopp and the players and everybody said, no, man, you're still our guy. I don't know, just the feeling of the stadium and stuff like that. That's kind of like an important to have that goalie. I mean, just remember, heck, before Allison, look at some of the goalies we've had and how much, nervous they have made us, like Mignolet. I mean, I remember like my Mignolet, and I love Mignolet. I think he was a great personality, as a leader, even when he was not playing and he was like benched and stuff like that. But heck, man, I remember like every corner kick felt like we gave up like a PK, and because it was just like horrific every single time. And it wasn't only him, it was, not that we're bashing on Rodgers over here, it was our defending, but still, it was like, you have to have confidence in the goalie. It's a huge part for the fans in the stadium, and that affects the defense. That affects everybody else on the field. The back line plays a whole lot different when they know there's a good goalie behind them that can kind of save their ass if need be, as opposed to doubting themselves, saying, oh my God, if we screw up, it's definitely going in because this guy's not going to stop it. And I know it's like the feelings are probably not that extreme, but that little bit, even if it's a little bit of a confidence level, that can make a huge difference in a game. The whole Ecuador thing, I only saw like one guy, actually, he was born in Colombia, so he had like a fake passport to play in for Ecuador, and now they might be eliminated. I don't think it's official yet, but the talk is, I hope not, because I would really feel bad for Ecuador, all the other players, because I mean, this is a huge thing for them to qualify for the World Cup, and it would really, really suck for, just freaking being yanked just because of like one player that they probably nobody else knew. First of all, it's not like, the entire locker room was like, hide the fake passport, they're coming, or anything like that. Like, nobody had an idea probably. So it's kind of harsh on the rest of the team to be eliminated just because of one dude with a fake passport in there. So I kind of hope it doesn't happen. They get a fine, the dude gets banned from international play for rest of his life or something like that, whatever. But I just hope the rest of the team does not get thrown under the bus for one guy. It has been a thrown under the bus kind of morning. Diego Costa, Karius, and now poor Ecuador. And and Alan says they were playing the opening game. Yeah, I just hope the national team does not get punished for it. More than that, the nation doesn't get punished for it. I think that's what it boils down to, especially when you're talking about a country like that who does not qualify regularly, and it's a huge ordeal for them just to be in the World Cup. When these teams go in the World Cup, they just go with hope and whatever. Even if they lost all 3 games over there, they're still going to applaud their team, and they're going to be like, thank you for bringing us here. But it's not the same as, I don't know, like Germany or somebody like that. It was like, oh, we'll be there next time, kind of a deal. So I would really feel bad for Ecuador if that happened. Let's hope that doesn't happen and they come up with like a different ordeal. And I don't know, like, who would go, like the next guy up, whoever Ecuador eliminated. I don't know. Unless they take Turkey, then I'll be all up for it. No, I'm just kidding. Either way, it shouldn't happen. Not to mention, we're in South America, so I don't think we're going to be able to squeak in there. Even with, maybe if everybody gets eliminated, they'll take Turkey to play in there somehow. But so let's get to today's game. Like I say, less than 6 hours to kick off. Pretty nervous about that one. I don't know where everybody is with it, but we were talking about on the live podcast last night too. It's kind of scary to not know what we're going to see. In the past, whenever there was a subpar performance, and heck, I mean, this Napoli was like the lowest of the low, even Klopp said himself. But, when you had a poor performance, a subpar performance, like where we didn't look up for it or something like that, as Klopp would say, we knew we were going to rebound, and we were going to rebound big time. And that team was going to be just all over the place, back to their 100% energy levels and stuff like that. You kind of had that confidence. You were like, that was, if almost like it was like, oh, I would hate to be the next team that plays them, is the feeling you got, right? Like after a subpar performance, because you knew they were mad, they were going to come back out. I had that feeling going into the Crystal Palace game, and one of the rare times I was positive and optimistic, and that fucking backfired. So, and throughout the season, every time I've thought, okay, I think we turned the corner. Like the Bournemouth game, not as much. I was like, thanks, Bournemouth. This is what we needed. But especially that Newcastle game, especially the way the win came and how they fought till the end, I was like, okay, this is the turning point. We're going to be back. And we have not been. It's been kind of up and down. And honestly, one thing that's been consistent is being outworked by the opposition every game, and that rarely happens with us. So it's concerning in that sense, not knowing who's gonna come out and in what kind of mood, as Klopp would say. I'm hoping the fact that we are able to insert some new players in there coming back from injuries like Thiago and Matip and stuff will kind of like refresh us and give us more of a work rate. I mean, we saw, I know it was limited time and it was kind of like the end of the game where Napoli is already like, well, this one is over. But you could see the impact Thiago can make in the midfield. And sometimes you just need one or two guys to make the people around them better. And I'm hoping once this team feels like, okay, man, we're back. Now we're playing kind of a deal, it will keep going. I mean, Ajax is a dangerous team. I know they lost a ton of talents, but they always find a way to reload. And this is what they do, right? I mean, they just get guys. They keep bringing young guys up, then sell them for a fortune. And then there's another young guy that comes up who's just as good somehow. And they go and find a couple of veterans that will fit that system, that will be a leader, and that can still give them what they want. And they make a good combination with it. They've done it over and over again. It kind of helps that obviously the league is a lot easier for them overall. There's not a lot of competition for them, except like, maybe like PSV and like Feyenoord and stuff like that. But still, it's a dangerous team. And we were talking about this yesterday. I don't think it is the end if we lose this game, but it definitely makes the hole really, really deep to climb out of. I mean, this team can go on a run, shake itself off. We've seen it where they can, win all the rest of their games. I mean, this is the team that beats in the group of death every freaking game. So they are capable of it. Let's put it this way. This squad is capable of it. I don't know. This team right now, as it is, can pull that off. And that's kind of like what we were debating last night. I'm not sure if they can either. Gally and Bickler both thought, if we lose this one, it's pretty much over with getting past the group stages. I'm not going for that. I'm hoping it's not even a discussion. We get the 3 points, and this would be a great way to, this is my hope at least, where we approach this game and say, hey, let's freaking go out there, kick some ass, win this game, and then we don't have anything for 2 weeks, kind of put the pieces back together. People starting to come. We're going to go back to where we were and get some positivity, because I feel like this team has a lot of negativity, and obviously the media feeds into that and they add more to it. And this is what I mean when people, they kind of like go out of their way to tear. There's something that's very terrible right now at, like Liverpool, a team that was on top, in a decline or not doing well. So press and media will be all over this, all the pundits and stuff like that, who were probably, half of these guys were jealous and angry that Liverpool were doing so well anyway. So they're going to jump on the opportunity. And the rest of them are just asshole media. That this is what they do as a lifestyle and a career, where they just build you up and tear you down. So this is sadly a good timing for people like that to tear this team down. A win today would go a long way in kind of quieting those going into this international break. I know, obviously some of these guys are going to be gone, but still, I think getting some of the people back from injury, getting those guys built up will help this team going into that run before the World Cup. And then, we got that like month and a half or something like that, where, you make a good run, good series of games. Then we'll see what happens in the World Cup and what we add in January and stuff like that. But it's going to be difficult. That stage is going to be difficult. But the first step is obviously winning today's game, getting the 3 points, kind of like leveling everything out in the group again. And we would have played Rangers yet. Not that Rangers away especially is an easy game, but I feel like out of all the teams who are going to go and play away at Rangers, you would think Liverpool would be the easiest to adjust to that atmosphere compared to the other guys. But in some ways, Napoli has walked into some crazy atmospheres in Serie A, so they're used to going into hostile environments. But I feel like Liverpool will have an easier time adjusting to that environment at Rangers as opposed to the other two. But a win today would go a long way in getting there, especially with the break coming afterwards. In some ways, I know it really screws up our schedule moving forward. So you got to shove these 2 games in there where there was like pretty much no gaps to start with. So there might be weeks where we literally play like 4 games or whatever. How they're going to work this out? Because I mean, we're hoping like nothing else happens and everything works smoothly, but nobody saw this coming either. So, but I still think this is probably better for Liverpool. I don't know if I wanted these guys out there against Chelsea, who is also in a similar mode now with a new manager, with Potter, trying to put pieces back together and seeing this as an opportunity to make it like a starting point. So I feel like we have benefited in some ways from these games being postponed. Obviously, time will tell. And this is all assuming that once everybody is back healthy, we'll go back to what we're more used to over the last 3-4 years, the Liverpool that we've been watching the last 3-4 seasons. Will we get there? God knows. Because really don't know the reasons behind it. Is there something going on in the background, some kind of a drama, like with all this like Keita and stuff? There's a lot of rumors with that. Are they just freaking tired? If they're just like freaking tired mentally and physically, that's when people come back from injury and people being able to play obviously will help the cause. But time will tell. Really hard to tell what is wrong right now. And sadly, it almost looks like Klopp is not sure what is wrong right now either. But sometimes, as poor results attract other poor results and get you down that drain, sometimes winning kind of like reboots everything. And I'm hoping a win today will get that started. And I guess I thought the same thing after Newcastle too. But I think this gap kind of helps in that sense, where the games are not coming right after on each other, especially if it's a physical tiredness and a mental tiredness. Maybe this 3-week gap will help. And I realize, everybody's like, oh, these guys had a short summer, but everybody had a short summer. And I know these guys came up from playing the maximum number of games last year compared to some of those other teams. But that's really more on the managing staff than to kind of monitor them and maybe not have a preseason like we normally would. I almost get the feeling that we had a regular preseason at a time where these guys had a shorter off season coming from a year where they played every freaking possible game. And hence we had all these injuries. I know Klopp, I think it was like last week in one of his press conferences, kind of almost alluded to the fact that they are looking into that as well. Like, what did they do wrong that suddenly all these muscle injuries popped up? And maybe it was something with training. I mean, it's had to be, like I say, especially when you see so many muscle injuries. A team that played every freaking possible game the year before had a short off season. You probably don't want to have regular good old fashioned preseason going on top of that. But let's hope we win the game today, get everything rebooted, and then take these next 2.5 weeks off over here to kind of rebuild, get people back, and get back to our happy days. Maybe I'll retire the grumpy cup over here, but it is time for the second cup of Joe. I will let you guys go for now. Thank you for joining me, and let's hope for a Liverpool win. I'm going for like a 3-1 win today. But man, my predictions have been obviously down the drain. I'm the same guy who really called like a big win against Crystal Palace. So bear that in mind, but let's be optimistic. Let's hope the boys are back as we're used to seeing them and get a win today. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you guys after the game. Take care.